Hey guys, so today we're going to learn a new angle called secant-secant. So far we've learned three. We have central angles, which the formula is that the angle is equal to the arc. So this guy, whatever this angle is, say it's 40, the arc is also 40. Then we learned inscribed angles, which were formed by two chords that share an endpoint down here. And that formula was that the angle is half of the arc. So if the angle is 20, the arc's 40, right? You multiply by 2. Or if the arc was, say, 100, the angle's 50, you divide by 2. And then we learned about intersecting chords. So when the chords don't share an endpoint, they intersect somewhere inside the circle, creating this angle right here. And that formula was arc 1 plus arc 2 divided by 2. So we have three angles, three formulas so far. We are going to learn a new one. So these three are the three angles that are inside the circle. Now we're going to move to angles outside the circle. So we've done radiuses, we've done chords. So now we're going to talk about secants. So you should remember that a secant is a line that intersects the circle at 2 points. So here's a secant. We know it's a line because of the two arrows. It's intersecting at 2 points. We have another secant, another line with two arrows intersecting at 2 points. They're crossing out here outside the circle, creating this angle. So a secant-secant angle is an angle formed by two secants intersecting. Right? Secant-secant, two secants. That's our new angle. So now we need a formula. Just like with intersecting chords, it's going to create two arcs. So we have this big arc, and we have this small arc. So what our formula is going to be, instead of adding the arcs together like we did for intersecting chords, we're going to subtract them. So we have this big arc minus this small arc, and then we're going to divide by 2. So what that would look like is 160 minus 40 divided by 2. So 120 divided by 2, this angle out here is going to be 60 degrees. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to go through a bunch of practice problems with you now. So here we go. Here's the secant-secant. Here's a secant. There's a secant, forming this angle R out here. So we're going to use our formula. Big arc minus small arc divided by 2 equals the angle. So go ahead and take a second, pause the video, try to solve for angle R. So what you should have done was big arc minus small arc, so 140 minus 50 divided by 2. So 140 minus 50 is 110, divided by 2, you get 55. So angle R is 55 degrees. So here's another one. Take a second, pause the video, try to solve for angle G. So you should have done big arc minus small arc divided by 2. 175 minus 57, you get 118. Divided by 2 is 59. So angle G is 59 degrees. So that's how you're going to solve it if you're looking for the angle. It can get a little bit more complicated when I give you the angle, but you're solving for one of the arcs. So here, I gave you the big arc and I gave you the angle, and we're missing the small arc. So take a second, see if you can figure it out. I'll give you a hint. It's similar to intersecting chords. All right, so what you should have done was set up your formula. So big arc minus small arc divided by 2 equals your angle. So the big arc is 125 minus your small arc, we can call that x, divided by 2 is going to equal your angle, which is 37. So you got 125 minus x divided by 2 equals 37. So the first thing you always want to do is get rid of that divide by 2. You're going to do that by doing the opposite operation. The opposite of dividing by 2 is multiplying by 2. So what I did in my steps is that I multiplied both sides by 2. On the left, that gets rid of the divide by 2. We're left with 125 minus x. And then 37 times 2 is 74. So when I multiply both sides by 2, I get 125 minus x equals 74. I'm trying to solve for x, so I want to get rid of that 125. That 125 is positive. So to get rid of it, you want to subtract 125 from both sides. You'll notice in front of the x is a minus sign. So we have negative x. equals, and then 74 minus 125 is negative 51. So we got negative x equals negative 51. You can divide by negative 1 on both sides, gets rid of those minus sides. So arc US is going to be 51 degrees. So that's a little bit more complicated. I'm going to do another one just like that with you. So if that didn't make sense, let's try this other one. Pause the video for a second, try to figure it out. All right, so you should have done the same thing. Set up your formula first. Big arc minus small arc divided by 2 equals your angle. So we've got the big arc is 158 minus the small arc is x divided by 2 equals the angle, which is 50 degrees. So we got 158 minus x divided by 2 equals 50. Just like before, our first step is going to be to get rid of that divide by 2. We're going to do that by multiplying both sides of the equation by 2. So I get 158 minus x equals 50 times 2 is 100. We're trying to solve for x, so we got to get rid of that 158. 158 is positive, so to get rid of it, we're going to subtract 158 from both sides. So we're left with negative x. And then 100 minus 158 is negative 58. So we have negative x equals negative 58. Get rid of those minus signs. X equals 58. All right. So those are the two ways to solve the problems. It doesn't really get any more complicated than that. You're either going to just subtract the arcs, divide by 2, or you might have to do a little bit of algebra like in these last two problems. There is one more thing I want to talk about. So these are both secants. You can tell that they're secants because they're intersecting the circle at 2 points. So we've got this secant is intersecting at E and P. This secant is intersecting at G and H. Here's a problem that looks similar to those. You'll notice we've got RT is a secant. It's intersecting twice. But RQ is technically a tangent. So this wouldn't be a secant-secant. This would be a secant tangent. But it's going to act the same way. It has the same exact formula. Big arc minus small arc divided by 2 equals angle. Treat it the same way. So you take your big arc, 137, minus your small arc, 67, divided by 2. 137 minus 67 is 70, divided by 2 is 35, so that angle R would be 35 degrees. And that's all I have for secant-secant. So here's our formula, big arc minus small arc divided by 2 equals angle. You can go ahead and start the exit ticket now. If you're still not really understanding it, definitely email me or log into my office hours today. I can go through it. I can go through some more practice problems with you. I hope you have a really nice day.